Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Jeremy Miller for the Hire and Fire podcast, brought to you by Pirate Consulting. We're back today with episode number 8. We're interviewing an awesome guy named Imad Alassi. He's a very senior IT consultant, incredibly smart, and we pick his brain about technology in addition to what his experience is with our industry. So we cover a lot. So whether you like to talk about recruiting and staffing, or you love the discussion about technology and where things are going and what smart people do within it, you'll love the show. So enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hire and Fire podcast. Jeremy Miller here, your host. This is obviously brought to you by Pirate Consulting. We have Chad Sandy here, as always. Say hi, Chad.
Hello.
Hi, but we today have a special guest. His name is Imad Alassi. He is a solutions architect guru, and he's going to tell me what that means, because I just made that up eventually.
You just took my first question.
And, oh, is that true? Okay.
Yeah. What is it you do?
What would you say you do here? But today we're just going to be interviewing Imad just because it's fun to get somebody's opinion on what the heck it's like to deal with people like us all the time.
Sure.
And you've been in a lot of different capacities, right? Obviously dealing with firms like us. You've hired people.
Yes.
You will do that again, so we can talk about all kinds of different stuff. But really no agenda. Hello, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Welcome.
you very much
Yeah.
for having me.
So did you have a question teed up?
Well, that would have been my first question is, how did you break into the world of IT?
How did I break into the world of IT? This is a very good question. I was in college when I graduated as an electrical engineer. Mm-hmm. And I did this for 6 months after graduation, quite honestly. And then after that, I found out that it's not for me. IT is the field that I would like to really work on.
No kidding.
And I did actually QA close to 22 years ago, manual testing, when I discovered that I can do better.
Okay.
By how I got into automation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when in your degree, if ever, did you know in school at a certain point, like, ruh-roh, I don't really like this? Or did you not figure that out until you started really doing it?
No, quite honestly, I loved electrical engineering. It's very intriguing, very, professional. At a professional level, you feel that you are doing something very, very special. But after graduating, as a matter of fact, before graduating, I took some programming classes in college, and I loved programming. And I felt that I can do that as well.
Yeah.
So when I finished electrical engineering, I worked at a company called DataCard for 6 months as product engineer, helping testers and technicians build some fixtures for the company. That's when I realized it's not my style.
Yeah.
Working with people, engineers, particular electrical engineers, they are very cold.
Okay.
I hate to say this word because I am one of them by degree.
No, it's okay. They're all listening and they're all judging you. Cut it out.
But I found that it's more fun. And the cool thing is about IT, if you break something, it's not gonna create white smoke.
Yeah, physically.
Physically, this is true. When I was working as an electrical engineer, one of the things I used to do is build fixtures. And fixtures would require me to build a power supply. And sometimes I would cross the wires the wrong way.
Whoops.
Up poof, on the air. And I did this more than once. I decided not to do this anymore.
Interesting.
So
I have a similar experience, but mine was a little bit different. So I went into IT right away. That's what I studied in school.
Okay.
In the late 90s, early 2000s. And I knew right away, kind of in the middle of the degree, whoops, like this is not for me.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm pretty decent at it, but just the coding component, the solving of puzzles, the really intricate related, like nothing was more frustrating than me trying to execute a program, the most basic of programs, as you can imagine.
Okay. Hello world.
Or something dumb. It won't execute, and you realize that the reason why is you put a semicolon instead of a colon on line 392.
Yep.
And you had to go figure that out.
Yep.
Now, for me, naturally, it was just, obviously, I was just kind of more destined to be in a salesy type environment.
Okay.
But I find it really interesting that you had the same experience kind of going from one type of engineer to another.
You know, the reason why I love this the most, can you imagine you are writing words and these words would do something? This is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Like you say, do this, and if this, do that. To me, it's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
still
And it's
impressed
it's
by it.
limitless,
It's
obviously.
limitless. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want. You can. When I was in college, I took assembly language. Assembly language is a very low level.
Just C or whatever?
Not C, it's even below.
Oh, it's
C.
even below.
Assembly, like you're talking to like AND gate and OR gate, XOR, like logical. Components
Yeah.
in the board. Motherboard, for instance, these
Yes.
black chips that you see, we would code those. But how we code them is we say, okay, if you say a high and a high, you get a high, or a high and a low, you get a low, or whatever. Very simple logic, but it's very interesting. And then I got to I would look at applications. How do they design a drop down? What's behind the
Yeah.
drop down? What's behind the checkbox? How do you handle this? What's going on behind the
Yeah.
scene? So I was always intrigued to see that stuff.
Interesting.
Very simple, yet very big.
All right. Fire
so,
away.
So when I think engineer, whether any kind of engineer,
Yes.
mechanical, industrial, electrical, software, I think problem solver. I'm thinking back to like when you were growing up.
Right.
Were you always kind of a fixer, a problem solver?
No, actually, I was not. I used to break a lot of stuff. So
So you could fix it, or you were
so-
just a destroyer?
No, I'm just a demolition man.
Okay.
I would say, what's going to happen if I break this? What's behind the
Yeah.
curtain? You know, I want to see what's behind the curtain. I want to see like how it was made.
How it works.
Yeah, how
Of
it
course.
works. Like I want to see how does the motor work? Why these wires are hooked this way? I'm not saying that I know exactly what I was doing, but I was
Sure.
interested in seeing what's behind the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And where'd you grow up?
well, in Lebanon and in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you came to the States when?
In 1993.
Okay.
Yeah. I came to North America and Canada in 1989. Then I was there for almost 4 years, and then I came here.
Got it.
Yeah.
But school, college-wise, was here.
School was in Canada and here.
Okay,
Electrical
got it.
engineering here. I studied telecommunications in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then how did Minnesota grab you?
A friend of mine actually told me about Minnesota. Yeah, because as a person who lived in Saudi Arabia, like
I was going to say the climate is so similar.
Yeah, very, very similar. Sand, snow.
Right.
same
It starts
thing.
with an S. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in Canada and in Edmonton, Alberta, and I was studying telecommunications. And after it was a degree, it was just a diploma, 2-year diploma. And after I finished, he said, "What are you still doing in Canada? Come to the U.S." Because he was in Canada with me too.
Yeah.
And he said, "I went to the U.S. I studied electrical engineering. Come study here." The reason why I came here, to go to college in Canada, you have to get a certain grade to go to college in English. It's called TOEFL. It's, English as a second language.
Yeah.
And you have to have a high score. I couldn't get that score.
Okay.
It was 580. I bet even Americans can't get that high. It's
Really?
very difficult
Interesting.
test. And in the U.S. was only 500. I said, okay, I can
Oh,
do
all right.
that.
Let's lower the bar a
I
little
can get
bit.
500. So I got 500.
Sure.
Actually, I got 554.
Yeah.
And
So the Canadian bar
580.
is higher on English than American.
yeah, of course, British.
Okay.
You know, like British based.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to have a higher standard. So, English wise, here,
Yeah.
here we're much cooler people. You know, like
Well, you
come
know,
over,
yeah.
give me your money.
We speak English, but
We
let's
speak
be honest,
English.
we speak American.
Exactly,
on some
American
level.
English.
So American English.
So I
right.
came here, and this is how I started in 1983.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now here I am.
So why the QA world?
QA, yeah.
Was that kind of a good point of entry for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is actually when I started Data Card. I was electrical engineering for 6 months, as I was saying, and then I switched to another team as a manual tester. And one time, and I'm talking 1998, my manager came to me And he said, Imad, we have a new project for you to test manually. I said, what's the project? He said, okay, we have point of sale terminals, like 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a host terminal. We need to run 1,000 transactions manually with the credit card transactions and all that. At the end of the day, we'd like to verify that all the transactions went correctly to the host. I said, are you crazy?
Yeah, manually do 1,000.
Do 1,000 transactions?
Mhm.
He said, yes, we have to do this. This is the project. I said, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, give me 2 weeks. I said, okay, you got 2 weeks. I don't know what you're going to do in 2 weeks, but you got 2 weeks. So I went to the developer and said, show me how you can talk to this terminal. What kind of code I need to do to talk to the terminal. He said, okay, that's the function that we talked to when we first launched the application. He said, okay. And he taught me how to insert code, how to insert logic into that method. And with presses some keystrokes, it would launch automation.
Yeah.
Launch transactions. And that's since 1998. And he said, no more manual testing for me.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, my manager came to me and he saw things happening by themselves. And I said, what's this? I said, this is your testing.
Yeah.
I sat down like this. I said, okay, do you like the testing? He said, oh, yeah. And we found so many bugs in
Yeah.
the system without me touching anything.
Okay, so this might be an ignorant question. I think it's smart, but it could be ignorant, so you
Okay.
get to decide. What if you're doing that in 1998?
Yeah.
How did it take, realistically, a solid 15 years, maybe even 18,
More than that, yeah.
to get to the point where the industry as a whole, at least in this country, which tends to be on the bleeding edge, decides we're not going to have 38 manual testers anymore. We're actually going to code this, and we're going to go as much fully automation as possible.
Right, because then, in 1998, the concept of a framework was not there. A framework right now is the core solution that has to exist to implement an automation solution in any company. Then I needed to code things. So a manager would come to me, well, who's going to maintain this if you leave? Nobody.
Yeah.
Can you imagine they would invest thousands and thousands of dollars on me, and then when I leave, nobody can maintain this.
Right.
That's what people were scared. One time I was working for a company, Crawl on Track.
Yeah.
And my manager came to me and he said, we want to develop an automation solution. My mistake, after I developed a solution for him, and I was excited, I said, oh, look at my code, it's beautiful. And he looked at the code and he saw C language. He said, who's going to support that? I said, what do you mean? I'm here, I work as a full-time. He said, no, but it's too complicated. That was my mistake. Do not ever show a manager the code. Seriously, just show him a building block. Here's a house, here's a window, and that's how we enter the house and cook a chicken. I don't know.
Oh, okay, so you know, I obviously don't do what you do for a living, but how would you in a non-IT professional way describe like what you mean by the framework and like how does a company go from okay, so we're rolling out a new software, and maybe this software orders stuff online and we're Target, or maybe this software is a payroll application, or who cares what it does. But you got a team of people behind the scenes developing code to pull all of the information so that all the different forms and reports fill properly. You got the people writing the interface, so like you said, the drop downs and the check boxes and the style of it. And that's kind of how it works per se.
Yep.
But you're coming in and you're having to test that to make sure data's being pulled and computed properly.
Right.
So that makes sense in my brain. But then when you say framework, I'm like, "Arr!" And I short circuit, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that.
A framework, you need to look at it as a house, a skeleton house, that you come in and design the windows, the doors, the carpet, the painting. Okay? But you cannot put a window on a non-existent house, like a house.
Yeah, if there's no wall there for a window,
you
you
have to have a
can't-
wall.
yeah.
You have the cement, the wood, the roof, and all that, right? And then because without that you cannot even build anything. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that, in a automation perspective, is I can summarize automation in 3 sentences. What are you trying to do? First of all, I need to launch an application. I need to identify the application elements, and I need to apply actions against those elements. right? To meet the requirements. That's all you need to know. You launch, identify, and apply actions, right? So this is, people are looking at me, what's that?
Yeah.
Sounds
Well,
simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. Like for instance, I would like to test Google webpage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I launch Google, I know the URL.
Right.
I see the search box, that's an element. I see a button called "You got lucky today," whatever that is.
I forgot about that. I'm feeling lucky or whatever that was.
Yeah.
I feel lucky, yeah, whatever that is. And then you click that button after you enter a text. These are the actions that you performed against Google page, right? And I would like to test this. So how do you do it? Well, okay, you launch the application. I found those elements on the screen, and I interact with them. By doing that, I actually clicked. I don't know if I'm gonna say I tested the web page, but I really launched sort of a test case to verify that I can launch the application, I can go to the search box, type something, I click OK, and I find that search term in the next page.
And at this point is where the dilution between manual and automated comes in, because if you're going to test 1,000 searches,
Yes.
like you said with your point of sale, you're either manually doing it.
Yep.
So you got a team of 12 people doing this 8 hours a day for
Right.
months in a row.
Yes.
Or,
Over and over again.
Over and over.
Yes.
And then finding the results or documenting bugs, or you're taking a template of data in whatever form, Excel or pick a random file format,
Absolutely.
and you're plugging it in, and then
Yes.
it just churns through these suckers.
When I was at a company actually worked for called White Box, when I went there, I met with 3 people. I believe the CTO, a director, and a manager. And they were looking. White Box is a company that works with like the stock market. And the director told me at one point. He said, "We have a test case that would be impossible for us to automate." I said, "What is it?" And he said, "We have a template that has a lot of indices that we have to go through them all and verify that when we load them, the application that we're using display the right results." I looked at him, I said, "That's easy." He said, "Excuse me?" "How easy is that?" I said, "Well, show me the application, show me the template that has those indices and the expected results." And the funny part is, I was talking about automation. What can we bring? What kind of solution we bring? What kind of application we need to implement to design a solution that meets their need? After half an hour talking to them, he looked at me and he said, "You know what? I really enjoy listening to you. I'm talking about this because you have the passion for this." I said, "Listen, I've been doing this for so many years."
Mm-hmm.
When I was working for White Box, I've been in the industry for close to 18 years, 17 years. And I said, "I still enjoy watching my screen doing its work."
Yes. You get so much satisfaction out
I
of it.
love it. I love it. I still do. I go to work every day. I run away from my kids sometimes to do this.
Okay.
Just as you can call me a geek, but I really get a kick out of it.
Hey, we all geek out on a lot of stuff. Let's be honest, right? To the degree that you like geeking out on data being pulled properly is the same way some guys like the lines in their lawn being mowed properly.
Well,
so we all geek out on some weird stuff.
That's
Well,
right.
well, that means you found the right.
Yeah, you're in the right world.
It
Yeah,
makes-
if you don't enjoy what you do, don't do it.
What you were saying there just made me think of my dad. He was a bricklayer.
Okay.
And one of the last, of course, he's been retired now for about 15 years or more, but one of the last projects he worked on was the Wells Fargo Tower in
Okay.
downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
And one of the last things he did on the Wells Fargo Tower was the cobblestone sidewalk around it. And he lives up north, northern Minnesota, but he tells me, he goes, occasionally when we drive downtown, occasionally when I'm with him, he says, "I just love driving by there and knowing that I had a part of that."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, if you don't enjoy what you do, don't do it. And if you go to work just to earn a paycheck, don't do it.
It'll eat you alive.
Oh yes,
We've
life
all
is
been
not
there.
worth it.
We've all been
Seriously,
there.
it's not
And he
worth it.
and he takes great pride in the results, the work, like
Absolutely.
you were discussing
Yeah.
there.
How have you balanced that? Like, you can't be in the industry as long as you have without finding yourself in a position, even as a senior person,
Right.
landing a contract or whatever,
Yeah.
that all of a sudden you're there and it's the dread that you wanted to avoid. Like, have you been fortunate in the sense that, like, you kind of knew what you were looking for and therefore you've avoided it? Or have you ran into the potholes like everybody else has on different jobs throughout your career?
I have. As a matter of fact, this happens to everybody. The thing about me, I get bored very quickly, believe it or not. So when I go to a company, and if they do not keep me busy and excited about what I do, I quit. Seriously. And as a matter of fact, one time I went to a company and I was talking to the manager, and I said, "Are you going to keep me busy?" And he looked at me and said, "Of course." 6 months later, I quit. I said, "I'm sorry, I gotta quit." He said, "Why?" I said, "You did not keep your promise.
There's nothing to do.
I'm not busy,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing something." Yes, I was doing automation, but I did all that I can do. You ask me why I'm still with Allianz right now. Because Allianz is a company that has so many applications. They're keeping me very busy.
It's just endless for you.
It's endless.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like, because I go from A to B to C. I help this team and that team, and I get just ball rolling all the time.
Yeah.
When at one time I was working for Wetbox, actually, because when I met with them, they told me about the problem. I told them how I can solve it for them. 3 months later, I called for a meeting. I invited 3 guys I met with, and I got the automation framework developed. I got the test cases that they want automated. I built a small UI for them to run the automation. So I went to the meeting room, and I said, "Guys, I have a demo for you." He said, "Okay, well, show us the demo." They're excited about the whole thing. And half an hour later, I said, "Guys, you hired me to do this, right?" And they said, "Yes, this is exactly why you got hired." I said, "Well, are you happy with what I did?" He said, "Yes, we like it." I said, "Okay, you got my 2 weeks notice." He said, "What? Well, you don't need me anymore.
Right.
I'm done.
Yeah.
You hired me to work on this application. I developed the solution. I'm not going to be here to maintain it over and
Yes.
over again.
Yes.
If you have a different application, maybe I can help you with, but this is the only application you have. It's a White Box is a small company.
Yeah.
Well, they have limited application development. So I developed a solution for them and I moved on.
Yeah. Oh, what a great transition.
They were
So,
happy.
okay. So if I'm a director, I'm a CTO, CIO, whatever the heck I am, and
Yep.
I'm bringing you on for a project that you're excited about.
Yep.
And I get it that you're an individual human, and you're like we all have our own wants and needs. But as a general rule, like, what would your advice be to a manager about how to keep you interested?
Keep me challenged.
Because do you think Allianz is doing that intentionally, or it's just such a big environment that it just has this continuous flow that you can't possibly topple?
The latter.
Okay.
The latter. Because they have so many. When we meet as a QA team at Allianz, we are close to 200 people in a room. Between managers and seniors and juniors and automation and manual. Can you imagine? We have at least 200 or if not more.
It's a big group.
It's a huge
Right.
need. And even though right now I am working, as a matter of fact, on an application, it's an AS400 COBOL application. I don't know if you heard about IBM iSeries.
Sure.
The green screen.
Mm-hmm. It's still around.
Yep.
Still around.
Still around.
When I was
There's still
working-
AS400 operators out there. They're still
absolutely.
working.
When I first got actually to work with Allianz, they told me, well, we need you to use this specific application to test this IBM iSeries. I said, guys, this is not the way to go. And they said, well, we have this application, we paid for it. I said, no, I'm going to provide you with a solution that will cost you $0. So they said, how? I said, well, I can develop for you a solution that's very basic that will allow you to test this application, would allow your manual testers to test this application without writing a single line of code. And they said, what are you talking about? And I gave them a demo. And now my solution at Allianz is the solution to be used against this application.
That's awesome.
And right now, more people are using it, even in India, using this solution to test the IBM iSeries.
How is it that those super ancient, antiquated systems don't get replaced? Are they just too ingrained where we're talking hundreds of millions to be able to really revolutionize it? Is it that simple?
Well, they do cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
They do cost a lot of money. They support so many applications. They are the heart of so many applications.
It's just processing data.
Processing data.
Yeah.
Basically, especially for companies like Allianz, Prime, companies like Script. What do you call it?
Express Scripts?
Express Script.
Okay.
They use what other companies? Any company,
of course.
Medical, insurance, banking, they use it. And if you go to...
But how have we not developed?
It goes pretty fast. IBM iSeries process things much faster.
It's amazing.
Than any other application out there. If you build an application, like let's say a web page would require you to do web service, right, to the endpoint. And sometimes traffic is really heavy to go back and forth between point A.
So what's your bandwidth?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are using its server, and
Yes.
a lot of money should come in. I can process a transaction on IBM iSeries probably a fraction of a second in comparison to other applications. So they cannot. IBM came up with a great product. They cannot.
It still blows my mind though, because I use a third-party company to process payroll and all types of financial related data for my organization here. And it's obvious that they have some type of old school processing on the back end. I don't know what that is. I don't need to know. But I know that financial transactions are being processed nightly.
Okay.
Because if something comes in the middle of the day, it's not going to hit the system until tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And that's just kind of the way it goes. So is that just a part of the beast with regards to the way these systems work? Because there's so much processing that needs to be done that it's being done on third shift batch processing because the bandwidth is lower?
When there's no traffic, or
when there's no traffic,
like the traffic is at a minimum.
Yeah.
For instance, let's say I would like to hit the IBM iSeries server, like 10 of us, or 100 of us, or 1,000 of us at the same time, it's gonna choke.
Yeah.
Like any other application.
Yeah.
It's a server that you're hitting, right? But still, it's faster than others. If you put 1,000 people on, let's say, I'm just pretending it's true. Let's say they want to hit Microsoft page, million or maybe a billion user. They're gonna hit Microsoft. It's gonna choke.
Yeah.
Eventually, right? At the same time, it's gonna choke. No matter how good it is, it might choke. Or even Google, for goodness sake. Even sometimes Google goes into if you hit it with so many users at the same exact time doing heavy traffic, you might break it.
Yeah, here's a stupid example, and you're going to laugh at me that I know this, and I have no idea why this popped in my head. Do you know who Jennifer Aniston is?
Of course I
Okay,
do.
so she went on Instagram for the first time a couple of months ago. And I happened to see this article. Did you see this article?
Nope.
So she popped up a brand new account on Instagram. And she's like super huge celebrity. She had 35 million followers overnight, and it took down Instagram.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are huge applications. To your point, with billions of users, but even with that type of server farm, they're not used to this one darn server getting hit that billions of times or whatever it works out to be.
I worked for this company as a freelance. It was in Plymouth, and I went to their data center. It was a room as big as your company, and your company's big, and it was full of servers running like crazy, and they're stacked up like buildings in New York. It's very heavy, and even it's hot in there. And this is only one company in Minnesota, which is not as big as Google, or Microsoft, or all these big huge companies. Can you imagine Google's data
or Amazon or whatever.
Amazon or Microsoft I sometimes I wonder how many servers they're running to support only the Hotmail or the Outlook.
Yeah.
How many millions of people are using it right now, in addition to other cloud and all that stuff.
So I have a question. So going back to the scenario where you were hired to do a job.
Yes.
You completed the job. They were happy with the job.
Yep.
And then you put in your notice.
Right.
Did they accept that and you moved on? Number one.
Yeah.
And then number two, do you think that's common in the industry?
It is common for people who are looking for challenges. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If people are just happy with what they do because they're getting paid, and they're happy with that, that brings them satisfaction only. Like, I just want to get paid, then they can continue on. Myself, I cannot do that.
Yeah, because in my experience, I've seen a lot of waste. Because I've worked for staffing companies whose clients were big, large companies.
Yep.
Global Fortune 50,
Yep.
Fortune 20, Fortune 10,
Mm-hmm.
and I see what I've seen is not that.
Okay.
A lot of people sitting around, just kind of not,
That chat.
yeah, maybe what they were hired to do could have been done in a month, and they were there for a year and a half.
I was working for this company, and I have this habit of doing my work, my job, my assignments as fast as possible because I get satisfaction out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the consultants came to me and they said, Imad, chill out. I said, what do you mean chill out?
You're making us
Yeah,
look
You're
bad.
making us look bad.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid. Just enjoy it. I
Yeah.
said, I am getting paid, but I'm not getting satisfaction.
Yeah.
I have a similar story where this was years ago. A consultant had a very similar scenario.
Yep.
And his peers said, "Look, Frank," or whatever his name was, said, "Just how about treat your job?" Because same thing. They were like, "Hey, slow down, man." And they said, treat your job, pretend you're like a fireman working at a fire department. And spend most of your time just hanging out. Watching TV.
Watching some pizza, or watching TV, eating some pizza.
And every once in a while the alarm rings and you got to go put out a fire. Just relax. Just relax.
Well, what's an interesting dynamic too is that there is a joke inside of our industry about the good ones, aka the good consultants,
Yep.
have 9 lives. And I don't mean 9 lives like a cat where they got killed and they came back. I mean like they always figure out a way to get extended.
Yeah.
Which is a compliment.
Yeah.
Because if your work is valued, then they will figure out a way to slide you to another project.
Right.
What I think you experience, and if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear it, is that it's a combination of you're there to solve a problem.
Yep.
So when the problem is solved, it's done. So if they don't bring you another problem quickly enough, you're on to the next problem. So we got that dynamic.
Yep.
And then in addition, you need the next problem to be just as enticing. So it's not just another problem. It's like you need to feed me with something good here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was actually at Prime Therapeutic, it's a great company. I was hired to do a task, a simple task. And I'm going to give my friends Chris and I a flag. He brought me
I'll
over.
text him and tell him that he got hit on
you,
the
Jeremy.
podcast.
Actually, Jeremy and Chris got me this gig with Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was hired by my manager, he said, "You're an automation engineer." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, we have 200 test cases we need to automate." And I said, "Okay." So I sat down, I looked at them. A week later, I said, "I'm not the man for the job." He said, "What do you mean? You're an automation engineer?" I said, "Yes. You give me test cases that I do not understand. I do not understand the application under test. The test cases were written in a way to be run by a tester who understand how the application works. I do not understand how the application works, and I don't want to understand how the application works. Automation engineers do not want to understand how the application works." And he said, "Well, do something." I said, "Yeah, I'm leaving the company." He said, "Well, automate something." I said, "Listen, I have a proposal for you." And this is, to answer your question, how I get myself to that point where I'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
I'll make the client happy.
Yeah.
I told him, I cannot automate these test cases. However, I can develop a solution for you so your manual testers can automate these test cases.
I totally. Yeah.
He said, "Okay, show me what you got." I said, "Okay." And I got started. I developed a framework. I got extended because I was hired only for 3 months.
Naturally.
I got extended. And after I developed a framework, I developed a UI for them to use the framework. I was hired to automate 200 test cases. By 6 months later, about 1,600 test cases were automated, not by me. by the team.
So is this where the delineation comes in between automation engineer and what you would describe as architecture?
An architect is a person who will provide a company with a full-blown solution from A to Z. Not only like an automation engineer could be hired to write code, right? And this code could be maintained by the automation engineer only. An architect will provide a solution so other people can use it
Yes.
to automate their own test cases.
Yeah.
A test case is a manual thing. A test script is an automation thing. You build a bridge between the test case and the test script to be automated by the manual tester, not by me.
And even more rudimentary, I always described, and I hope I'm right, so you can let me know if I'm not. The natural progression, and this is regardless of technology, it's administrator, engineer, architect, right? So the administrator is obviously just ensuring that the existing solution is working.
Yep.
And puts out fires, aka firefighter, to your comment before.
Yep.
The engineer is the one that is implementing said solution that the administrator will support ongoing.
Yep.
And the architect is the one that built the whole damn thing and basically helped implement it so that the engineer can go build or go implement what the architect built.
Well, the architect, in addition, this is all good. I agree with you, but I want to add two things to the architect. Is the person who will provide the building blocks. How are you going to think? How are you going to build this house? What kind of tree you going to have in front of the house? What kind of window you going to have in here? Or what kind of door? And I'm going to show you how to do this. So if you want to add a similar door somewhere else in the house, I'll show you exactly how to do it.
So does the door swing in or does it swing out?
Is it French door or
right?
Yeah,
right.
I'm gonna show you how to do it. I'll give you examples. I'll give you I'll give you an example from Allianz. I'm working right now with a very smart guy. His name is Jacob. We're working on a project, and my solution to test IBM iSeries application is to build the team, methods, functions that he can use. He's a manual tester, by the way. He can use to build test scripts without seeing the code, without even knowing how the code works. He will say, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, Z, D, A again.
Interesting.
To build this scenario that will meet my need as a manual tester. You need to think, this guy took my solution that I developed here for this solution, and he took it and he automated 38 test cases over this long weekend without a single help from me. Because he's using my framework.
Yes.
He plugged it in here to develop something totally different.
So is it, what is needed for obviously you're going to use testing just because that's the most applicable story, but what is needed for a manual tester to morph into an engineer, and or what is needed for an automated engineer to get to your level?
Okay, well, of course, you have to love what you do. This is a given, right? A manual tester is a person, in my book, a person who can think outside the box. Like he would say, I'm running this test over and over and over.
There's got to be a better
I'm
way.
sick of it. I don't want to do this anymore,
Sure.
for goodness sake. If he feels sick to his stomach, or her stomach, to do this over and over again, I want to come up with a better process, right? So they need to think this way. If some people I've been with, they want to keep moving this cup every day from A to B, B to A to B, B to A, all the time.
They're making their $40 an hour. They're good.
Whatever. They're
Just keep
happy
showing
with
up.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Let me I'm happy with it. One time I was talking to this person, and I told her, like, how come you have 200 test cases here? How many of them did you run? I said, only the first 2. I said, you wasted the company's resources and the time to run only 2 out of 200 that you told the company that you created, but you don't even run? Can we automate these? And she said, I have no idea how they run anymore. I said, well, what a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you thought about this process before you even wrote those test cases to start with. But I have this from my experience, I've seen people working in this industry just to make the paycheck.
Yeah.
They don't do it to bring value to the company. They just enjoy that the income is good. $40 an hour or $50 an hour is good money for a manual tester to sit down and just do
And plug away. Yep.
and have fun doing it. And I don't know why they're enjoying it. Quite honestly, I would hang myself. I cannot imagine myself doing this every day of my life.
So it's a combination of forward thinking and just in not being okay with the status quo.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the manual to automated engineer route.
Absolutely.
So once you're an established automated person, and this would be applicable to, maybe you're a Cisco engineer or whatever type of engineer you are. Now you're an established engineer. Is it the same basic evolution to move into the architecture rank where you're starting to think just more holistically about it? Because if I'm hearing you right, you got to the point where you're like, hey, I'm really good at fishing, but if I can teach all these other people how to fish, we can crush this. So if I can build a system that just shows them how to fish, then look at this. Is that analogy close?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I can, as I said, I get bored very quickly, and I need to move on to a different thing. I cannot just be there supporting you over and over again. I'm just gonna babysit you and show you how to automate this test case to a test script every single day of my life. I cannot do that. I'm gonna teach you how to do that. I'm gonna show you the rope, and then I want you to take action now. Not tomorrow, and please do not come ask me the same question over and over again, because I'm gonna know that you're not that interested. If you're not that interested, why are you wasting your time and mine?
Yeah.
You're not interested. Stick with what you like to do and be happy with this. Is fine.
So you're probably not going to be surprised by this, but our industry is not far off. So, we're in the staffing business, right? So if you've dealt with 1,000 recruiters, I'm sure. So, my main goal is to teach a recruiter who has the fundamentals of how to talk to potential prospects and how to match what their desires are to the needs of our clients. And that's how we place people, right? So I sit down with a guy like Imad earlier in his career, and I try and figure out how I can help him and give him what will get him what he wants or whatever. So my main thing teaching that person is similar from an architecture level perspective, maybe even in this capacity more of the engineer, where I'm trying to expand that recruiter's mind to say, okay, you've done very good on how to do this on an individual basis. We give you a job to work on, you go find a candidate. We give you a job to go work on, you find a candidate. Okay, so like basic math here, right? So now, how do we do this on a grander scale? The grander scale is how to be able to develop a system to keep in touch and track individual consultants and handle whatever your bandwidth is. Now, instead of helping one person at a time, you're still helping one person at a time, but you're building a bigger system by widening the scope of the people that you're working with. Then over time, as you keep in touch with people, that system starts to develop your 1Z, 2Z help placements on its own. Because if you have a system in place that keeps track of people like Imad, as long as you execute and you reach out to Imad on a reasonable basis and you go, hey Imad, how's the job going? Right? Eventually you're going to say, I'm bored. Now I'm in a position to help you. So at the beginning, I found you on a job board and I place you. I found you via referral and I place you. Now I built a system of my own where I can put you in there, and as long as I'm processing, it starts to churn through. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do.
I think that is the key area where recruiters really almost choose to think small. And because of that, that's how the transactional nature of you getting phone calls where they're like, hi, Imad, I found your resume from 4 years ago and I think you'd be a really good fit for this manual tester. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? So that's
Right.
where that comes from
Yep.
because
We
they're thinking small.
Yeah, or
They
like
look
when
at
you
track.
said about the manual tester that's just doing A to B,
Yep.
B to A,
Yep.
A to B. I think that's how I'm hearing it. Is we have too many recruiters in the industry that are still doing the A to B, B to A instead of
Yep.
advancing and essentially we'll call it automating their
To a
process.
certain extent, you're at least developing a repeatable system.
Right.
So instead of 200 test cases being 200 individual test cases, they're going to remain individual.
Yep.
Even when you automate it, they still have to be done one at a time. You're just developing a system that does that substantially faster.
Right.
Because you can't just do them simultaneously.
Well, you can if you have multiple systems running them.
Sure. Like our business is a little different just because of the fact that like it's not a computer algorithm that
Yep.
we're talking about
Yep,
here. We're
yep.
talking about different individual people, needs, touch points, etc. But nonetheless, you just get to a point where if you're a recruiter and you're trying to make money, we're a commission-based industry.
Right.
So I need to find guys like you or gals, of course,
Yep.
regularly.
Of course.
If I'm trying to do that reactively, based on the fact that ABC company called and said we need somebody, you can place people, but you're never really going to be able to get to a high volume.
No, you're not.
And you have to be able to develop a system that's repeatable.
Well, here's a solution I would have for you guys. And as a matter of fact, maybe it's not feasible for you right now, or not, or maybe it is. But to get into the ability to place a lot of people, to have them available to you with experience that you instill in them.
Define that.
Okay. Training.
Training.
Why do I say that? Because a lot of people, from my experience, I've seen people, I've worked with people, I interviewed people, I screened people where I thought at one point they're good enough because their resumes are amazing. Like you would read the resumes, these guys gonna
They got it all.
knock me out of the park.
Yeah.
And I've been around the block for a long time. 5 minutes into talking to them, I would find out that they're not worth my 5 minutes talking to them, quite honestly. I'm not being condescending here, but they're lying to me. Seriously.
So yes, you're
Yeah.
being condescending.
Like, why are you telling the company that you're good at what you do when you're not?
So do you think it's just as simple as fluff bullshit on resumes?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, because they know they can double their income from a manual testing position to an automation position.
Yeah.
Why can't they just get there? I'll just say something or
I'll
write
just
something on my
lie,
resume,
cheat, and steal,
and
I'll
I'll get there. I'll learn on the job.
Well, what's funny is in the manual world that worked.
Oh yeah,
You know, you
it's
would
easy to
because
get into.
you could falsify a resume and sneak in 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And all you had to do is fight through a project or two, and you're in because you'll
That's
figure it
easy.
out.
But coding is not that easy.
Hell
You-
no.
You can sit down and pretend that you're a coder. I can figure out how you code in 5 minutes. I can look at your code. I find out if you're good enough or not.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to sneak in because you will be caught.
My basic advice, and I'm presuming you'll agree, but if not, cool. To anybody on their resume is don't put a single thing on there that you can't articulate.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
even if it was from school,
Yep.
and maybe school was 6 years ago,
Right.
as long as you can tell a coherent story that back at ABC University we used blah 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 blah, and this is what we did. Even if the manager in the interview views that as antiquated, old, not applicable, at least you sound intelligent.
Yeah.
And you can tell the story.
And I would like to add another thing. Do not lie.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Don't say that you're a doctor when you're a carpenter. Like seriously, like, I'm not trying to make people feel bad about what they do, or not. I don't know.
Do you ever, in your roles as in a hiring capacity?
Yeah.
I call these resumes alphabet soup sometimes, where they're just full of every single technical skill and
38
tool
bullet
and-
points each
Yeah,
job
500
description.
pages.
Yeah.
and everything's bold, You know,
Yeah.
When you're interviewing someone, and this speaks to your, don't put it on your resume if you're not prepared to talk about it.
Right.
Do you, as a hiring manager, where you're interviewing someone and you have one of these resumes in front of you that is just like overkill, right? Alphabet soup, I call it.
Magazine.
Do you ever call them out on it, or pick up a couple of the things that seem really obscure that they might have just shoved in there to make it look good, and ask them about it to see if they are truthful? Or
Well, I quite honestly, sometimes when I read resumes, I don't have time to read the whole thing.
Darn right.
I don't have time to do this, quite honestly. So let's say, okay, I'm hiring, or I'm helping the company hire this guy with this criteria. I would skim through the resume, find out things they did that will meet the need, and then I pinpoint that. That's what I do. I don't even bother. Why did you give me 10-page resume?
Yeah.
Why did you tell me what you did when you were 2 years old? Who cares?
Right.
You know, I don't care about what you did when you were in high school.
so how far back? This is, now we're on the topic.
Yeah,
I like
let's
that.
dig into the recruiting.
Yeah, So, because I have my thoughts, I'm over here on this side of the fence as a recruiter / salesperson. But you, as someone who's been in and are in a hiring capacity at times, is there how far back do you really care about? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
I care about what's relevant.
Yeah. Okay.
To the job.
If the job duties were done 6 years ago, do you kind of dismiss that a tad?
I would, because
Yeah.
I know that you don't have the experience that I might need right now.
I need you to walk in with it.
I want you, like for instance, what have you done last year? Have you, for instance, were responsible for a project? Because my client needs somebody who can hit the road running. I don't want somebody to mouth feed them, like, okay, do this and then do that. I want you, like I work with people sometimes, they can't think on their feet. They will come to me every single time. Okay, I added this. What should I do here? What should I do there? I'm not working with kids here. Like we're adults. Like we should be. I'm not saying that we're not there to train people. We are. But if you are every 5 minutes coming to me with a question, that means you need to help yourself get there. Because if you every time you get stuck, ask me a question, that means you're not professional enough.
So is your style to go phone discussion because you know that you're going to DQ people so quickly that it's not worth the face-to-face, or what do you do personally?
I will do it personally if they pass the screen.
Okay.
Phone screen. Because why would... It's if you interview people, it would be probably a waste of your time. Quite honestly.
Or theirs.
And their time.
Sure.
And, you don't have time to... A phone call is much easier, much faster. And be prepared. My advice to you guys, be prepared with questions that would pinpoint the actual experience that you are looking for or your client is looking for. Don't ask them questions, what did you play in high school? Like for instance, who cares? They play football or basketball? Does not meet the need for the client. Pinpoint questions, because your goal is to bring in the best candidates to the client. Why? Because you want to prolong this relationship, right? You want to say, "Hey, client, I bring you the top-notch people."
Yeah, we're
we're
bringing you value.
If
Sure.
you bring trash, they're not going to talk to you again. Hey, Jeremy, you brought me a crappy guy last time. Or he's bad attitude. He's not professional. He does not know what to do. I'm not going to hire it from you anymore, right?
And that's the fundamental basis of what we do. I mean, it really is our account manager's job to understand the basic parameters of what our clients are looking for. We articulate that to the recruiters. The recruiters are savvy enough, at least in this company, to be able to know what to do and what to talk about.
Yep.
So for the most part, I feel like we're really, really good in that capacity. But that doesn't mean that you haven't experienced or that we haven't made mistakes, of course.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
So as a general rule, when you think about either dealing with recruiting firms like ours as an individual and or in a hiring capacity, like, what is your thought? Like I know that I'm going to get X percentage of shit, or we could take it from any direction. You need a new project, so what do you do to get one? Or you need a candidate, and what are you going to do there? And what's kind of your just operating rhythm?
Well, for me personally,
sure,
I would probably take it as an example. I would see, who are your clients? How many years you've been in the industry? can I build a relationship with you as a consultant? And I want to have this because I don't like to work with a consulting company or recruiting company for 2 months and leave. I want to build a relationship. When I worked at Tech Systems, I was there for over 3 years.
Yeah.
And I would have continued, quite honestly, but something happened that I had to leave Prime, and I moved on with my life.
Yeah. And I left, and you had nobody else to talk to. I'm just joking. That's obviously not true. But continue.
On this topic. So
Sure.
in this scenario, you're the candidate.
He would be a candidate,
and you were
yeah.
working with tech, and you had a good experience.
Yep.
What was it about what Jeremy or any other recruiters you've worked with in the past that you liked, that you worked with more than once? What was it about that recruiter or those recruiters that you liked?
Well, I can use Jeremy and Chris and I, quite honestly. They were super friendly, super helpful, and whenever I needed something, they were there for me. And I wasn't just another buck for them. It's not, hey, he's money making, he's a cash cow, let's use him as that, and who cares what he thinks. I worked with people before, and I would never work with them again. I would love to work with Jeremy again. I would love to work with Chris and I again, because they made me feel that I'm professional, and they appreciated this. You need to, when you work with people, you need to show them that all the time.
Yeah.
And you need to tell them, yes, I really respect what you do, and I'm going to give you what you want. Not only money, but even the industry. I'm not going to place you in a hole. Here, go make me some money.
Yeah.
Right? So I respect what you do. So this is how I build my relationship with people. One time I was working with this guy, and I was between contracts, and I told him, this is my rate. He said, oh, I cannot give you that rate. I said, listen, I'm worth it. And I said it in a way where he said, what? Who says that? He said, listen, I've been in the industry for a long time. I know my worth. Anyway, he did not give me my rate. But 3 months later, I said, you'll get my rate, and I'll show you how. And I got extended. I got extended again. And he said, now I want you to ask the hiring manager my rate. And he got me my rate. And he said, nobody ever got that increase before. It was like $20 increase from the rate I got. And he said, I never hired somebody who got the $20 increase for within 6 months. I said, listen, do they like my work or not? Am I providing them with value or not?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, he fought for me, and he got me my rate. And this is something that I appreciate.
So on the flip side,
Yes,
you must still get calls from recruiters.
I do all the time, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you've just discussed these last few minutes sort of the positive side of working with good recruiters. What is sort of some of your negative experience that you see from recruiters out there?
Probably, thank God I did not experience a lot of bad recruiters, but I did experience some where they just place you. They don't even call you. They don't even check on you. They don't even know where you are, how you're feeling about the job. And the only thing they care about is just making money from you. Mm-hmm. That's all they care.
And you can
about.
just feel it.
I feel it all.
Yeah.
They go, like one time I was working for this company, and the person who placed me, I don't want to mention any names, she brought me over and she left. And I was there for 11 months. I never saw her.
Yeah. I didn't want to ask it in a loaded way.
No,
but that's been my, on the flip side, when I'm over here on this side and I ask consultants that question that I just asked you.
Yep.
That's probably one of the most common answers is, I got placed at this client and the recruiter or salesperson walked me in the door and I never heard from them again.
You need to build a relationship. You're not building this relationship between only this gig, but you're looking long term. Like if I'm finished with my Alliance and Jeremy or Chris and I would say, listen, I have something, I would jump on it. Because I've seen them before, I've worked with them before, I know how they work. I respect the way they deal with recruiters, with the consultants. So, but some people, I would not even answer their phone call, honestly. No, you don't.
This is an interesting topic inside of the industry that you probably might not be aware of, because most organizations have very documented processes about how to take care of consultants.
Okay.
the majority of the time it's around certain checkpoints of like lunches, coffees, happy hours, things of that nature.
Right.
I'm not going to diminish their value, but what I'm going to say is for guys like Chris and I that have been doing this a long, long time, we're working at a really big volume.
Yep.
And we know what our worth is as well, right? So we know what we have to be able to do and how many people we have to place. So I don't know if you know the answer, but do you know how many times you and I went out to lunch or coffee or dinner or whatever?
None.
I think it was none.
Yeah. However, hold on. No, this is true. No, but when I came to the company one time, he was not like he did not even ignore me. He was chatting. You were chatting with me, and as a matter of fact, we were talking about your system and how you do things. Like you were keeping me interested. Like hey, you're not here just to make money.
Yeah.
You're here to. You're part of the team. The thing is, I don't need to go to lunches or happy hours. You used to call me.
Can you repeat what you just said? You don't need to what?
I don't,
I'm just teasing.
No, seriously.
I agree.
I don't need that.
Because my way of doing it, and there were people that will disagree with me, was, I'm busy like you are.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to reach out on a regular basis. For me, typically it was monthly.
Right.
Emails, phone calls, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to continue to offer my help. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need?
That's
and
fine.
more often than not, you say nothing.
That's fine.
And then when you need me, I will drop everything that I'm doing to fix whatever problem you have going on.
That's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking for. Feeding me is not what I want. You helped me get a job. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But I want to build this relationship. We're professionals. We're not like, you placing somebody to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
You're placing a human being, a professional, to do some professional work. Show some respect to this person by checking on them. Hey, are you happy with what you do? If you're not happy, let me talk to the manager. If you're not happy with what you do, I'm gonna make it easy. Like Mike, the person I'm working with right now, he's always checking on me.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you're not happy, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the manager right away. And within a week, he will be talking to them and getting them whatever I want.
Right.
And
as
he
long
works
as the
with me.
communication there is consistent,
Right.
when you get bored, because frankly, let's be honest, it's
There
not if, it's when.
Yes.
When you get bored, if that person's checking in consistently enough, you'll give them the feedback,
Right.
presuming the relationship is good and calm and,
Yes.
and cordial and normal.
Yep.
Then it's up to the recruiter to be able to solve that problem.
Absolutely.
To be able to go to the client and say, Imad's a rock star, and you know this, what are we going to do next? And if you don't have anything next, then you have to understand that we're eventually going to have to phase this out.
Yep.
That would be the right way for you, at least, to be able to maintain an ongoing, consistent place over
That's
placement.
called good relationship.
Yeah.
But I've worked with people that they place and they're gone.
Yeah.
They don't
So,
even know.
so the gross part about this is, to the degree that the industry can be a little crazy about lunches and coffees,
Yep.
is to the same trap. It's on the other end of the spectrum,
Right.
that like it's constantly changing.
Yep.
And all the pressure internally is what's open now, what do we need to fill now? What's open now, what do we need to fill now? And this is not an either or situation. It's a both and.
Right.
So I have to be able to consistently come up with candidates via my system, via my sourcing, via my relationships, whatever that little magic formula is for each individual recruiter, and do that while keeping in touch with you on a regular basis and figuring out when it's applicable to pull you or what have you.
Right.
And those can be awkward situations.
No,
If I'm on the phone with Imad and Imad says I'm bored, I know that I got about 3-4 business days to figure this out before I'm running the risk of losing you
To somebody else.
to somebody else.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's not because you don't like me. It's because ultimately, like, we're here to provide a damn service.
Right.
And if you're not getting it, just by default, you're going to go elsewhere.
Yes.
You're just gonna.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get unlucky. Sometimes your project's ending and we just don't have the right job for you. And I don't care how many proactive selling or whatever, we just don't have it.
Yep.
Okay, that can happen too. We can lose you. And then as long as we stay consistent, we'll have a chance of helping you.
You know the funny part, Jeremy, it happened to me when I was at White Box when I decided to leave the company. A guy got me a gig with Target. This guy has been trying to recruit me for the past 10 years. 10 years. Every time he would check with me. His name is Ross. And Ross would say, Imad, are you available? I would say, no, I'm working with a client. And year after year after year, he said, are you available? I said, yes, I am. He said, I have a gig. Let's go right now.
Yes.
And he got me a gig with Target. But the cool thing is, he kept with me in a good term. I never worked with him before.
Yeah.
But I met with him for coffee at one point, and we built this relationship.
Probably 8 years before.
Maybe, yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Right.
But he kept a good relationship, respectful. He appreciates what I do. He kept in contact with me. And that's how you build networking, right? That's how you build a relationship for future, client relationship. And that's what I'm suggesting here is keep the connection going, because you don't know when this person could come in.
Yeah.
Right? And this person could come in and stay with a client for 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, maybe more. And this person can actually bring more people from this. This is how you build a good network. Right? Like you mentioned that you might play somebody and you lose somebody. I mentioned training, but there's another route, is to bring the good people to work with you that could bring more people like them to the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have new recruiters reach out to you, is there something about them that ropes you in or repels you?
What would intrigue me, their experience, if they have experience. Believe it or not, you might find it funny, but sometimes I look them up and I see how many years of experience they have, and most of them are college, fresh out of college.
Yeah.
They're hungry, they want to get to the industry, they want to make money. I don't really work with them. Seriously, I know they're there just to make money. They're not there to build this relationship that I was talking about. I'm not a 20-year-old guy anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if I was...
You look damn good, though.
I know,
let's be honest.
I'm trying. But
they missed our pre-episode weightlifting discussion.
Yeah, 500 pounds,
Pumping some iron.
So what would be your advice to the new person? And there's a lot of them in our business.
It's a huge model.
A lot of companies going to hiring the kids right out of college. And, it's no different than any other profession where you're just starting to get going. It's like, how do I get experience, blah, blah, blah,
sure.
blah. So what would be your advice on the inside to that new recruiter who's just starting out, trying to get going?
Read my resume, for God's sake.
Oh, boy.
Good, yeah.
Read my resume, for God's sake. Read what I do. Read about what I do and see if it meets the client needs. Some people get to me, hey, we're looking for an electrical engineer. Are you interested?
Oh, yeah.
Right away. I would
because they saw that was your degree.
I degree. Oh, you were maybe.
Yeah. That was true in 94.
Yeah. Why are you... Well, 97.
Okay, sorry. I apologize.
Why are you really wasting... One time, a gal called me, and I said, I'm not available right now. I'm working for Allianz. She said, Allianz? What Allianz? How do you spell that?
Oh, boy.
I said, I'm not interested.
You're uneducated. I gotta go.
I said, come on. You're in the industry.
You live in this town.
I said, Allianz Life Insurance? He said, what's that? I never heard of this before. I said, that's a 394, 100, the big building.
Have you seen the billboards where they phonetically spell out Allianz because everyone pronounces it Alliance?
Yeah. Do you listen to public radio? They have ads on it all the time?
Yeah.
Or just...
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing? You should not be in this industry.
So the biggest challenge with this is that you name any one of the large 10 firms nationally, they have proven year over year over year to succeed with this model.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is going away. I've taken a different stance with Pyra Consulting. I'm not intentionally being contrarian. I just feel differently in the model. But, I was a little bit of a weirdo at my old firm that I stayed in recruiting as long as I did. Because what you may not know is that inside of these organizations, they view the movement from recruiting to account manager as a promotion.
Okay.
So, like, going back to the Chris and me discussion, Chris and I were like, he experienced the normal trend.
Okay.
He recruited for a year or two back in the early 2000s or whatever year he started, and he's been in sales for 20 years, and he's a freaking rock star, as you know. He's awesome.
He's awesome indeed.
So, and I stayed in recruiting. So I was a little bit of an anomaly where I was in a recruiting chair for years and years and years. So this is kind of perpetuating in the industry. And you're, the 1.8 billionth example, unfortunately, about people that are experiencing this pitfall.
Yep.
Because now this isn't 2002 anymore. I mean, you can pop on LinkedIn and look at someone's experience at about 38 seconds, and then if I'm hearing you right, fair or not, you're making a fairly quick judgment.
Yes.
So this person who's coming out of college a year ago and has 6 to 12 months of experience in ABC staffing company, they just have to understand that they have to have a little bit more staying power to be able to eventually attract a guy like you.
Yes, and they should show me that some knowledge about what they're talking about. Do you know anything about what I do? Like if I tell them I do test automation development, I'm an architect developing solutions for companies to develop automation or implement automation solutions. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
They have no idea what that is.
Right.
Well, learn about it a little bit. Read about it.
So this goes back
Be
to the
ready.
admin, engineer, architect. Like if you even just understand the basics of an evolution of a career, you'd be able to diagnose that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't know the basics of what you're hiring for, you should not be hiring for any position, quite honestly, because you need to show the person that you're talking to some respect by learning about what they do. Like, why are you talking to me? Are you talking to me because I did so and so in college, or what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
Because when we go to college, we just learn how to learn.
Right.
Seriously, that's what we do. Like we don't really go out of college and start building factories and building cars. We can't. We cannot do that.
Right.
So now
and IT is the same. A company's not going to
Exactly.
trust you with stuff in production when you're brand new.
Absolutely. You got this right on.
Yeah, so I have a weird personal story where I got married and had kids young. You already know this.
Yep.
So I finished my bachelor's degree in my mid-20s.
Okay.
So I had already been in the professional world for 5 or 6 years, which is fairly humble as a 24, 25-year-old.
Right.
But I personally experienced what you're describing because I'm a 25-year-old being taught business cases in some random undergrad program that's now irrelevant to me. Because the undergrad program is designed to take a high school kid and try and give them some real world stories to start to think differently.
Right.
But once you've been in the real world, it's kind of rudimentary now.
Right. You have it.
For Thanksgiving, my younger brother, who's a fairly high up in Comcast, is going back to school.
Okay.
He just never got his undergrad.
Wow.
So he's just punching the card, right? But he's bored as can be because the entire undergrad program is designed for somebody half of his age.
Right.
He's 35 years old.
Yep.
And I was commiserating with him because I've been there, although it was a long time ago now. And I'm laughing. I'm like, I agree. Here's what's funny. When you finish your undergrad and you go back, if you wanted your master's, it's probably rudimentary to you as still. But there's a component of that education still carries some weight.
Right.
Not as much as it used to. But realistically, if I was to give advice to a brand new recruiter in this capacity, and I'm calling you, I would want to be able to have somebody to be able to say, before I call you, like, can I just tell you what this person does in like 8 seconds? And then if I can articulate that, then I'm probably in a decent spot over the phone.
Yes.
But if I can't articulate it in 8 seconds, and I'm guessing what you do, and because you have the word selenium on your resume, that automatically means you're a fit for a mid-level automation engineer. I'm going to look like a fool when I get you on the phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like what you need to understand what Selenium WebDriver, Java, or C#. What's the difference between them? Why would you choose Java over C#? Simple stuff. This is, to me, a recruiter should have this knowledge done before they even attempt. That maybe not. A recruiter could talk like this to a junior person, fresh out of college, no problem. Like, what kind of experience do you have with Selenium? Have you dealt with Selenium before? But you don't talk to somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years, could you please tell me a little bit about selenium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
No. But you know what's funny though is most of them are coached to play ignorant. So my opinion on this, and if I'm wrong, again, love to hear it, is if I'm getting you on the phone and I don't really know what you do,
Yep.
as long as my entire stance is inquisitive. So Imad, help me understand what you're doing now. Why do you like what you're doing now? What do you want to do next? How do you feel about the money that you're making? What makes you want to make another move? How do you feel about commutes? How do you feel about sizes of organizations?
Yep.
I can have a really good conversation with you without knowing a damn thing about your technology.
That's true, but the person you're talking to, if you're talking to me this way, I would say like, why are you calling me? You're just looking for somebody to chat with?
Okay, so if you can't produce some type of tangible value even after that,
Yes.
you're still at a disadvantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to target your potential contractor or consultant with questions that would make them feel appreciated.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm not saying this because I want to do this, but I'm talking to everybody who really respects and really love what they do. If you're talking to me like, how often do you work in the automation? Do you like what you do? Do you like your peers? What are you
That's
talking
irrelevant.
What
Well,
yeah.
are you talking to me about?
Well, as I'm sitting here now, what I'm thinking maybe the industry could use is where recruiters are starting, maybe recruiters when they're brand new need to start out, like you said, down here a little bit in terms of...
Stay with the low level.
Yes.
Right, and
Stay with the
and
low level.
absolutely. Yeah, and I'm thinking...
Stay with lows, like fresh
Yeah.
out of college.
Let the entry level recruiters
Work
cut
with-
their teeth on the
Yes.
lower level
Absolutely.
stuff.
I'm thinking about the jobs I had in the summer. I mentioned my dad was a bricklayer, and I worked as a laborer for his masonry company, which means I was the guy mixing the cement, lining up the blocks on the wall for the...
It's a good workout.
Right, great
Damn right
workout.
it is.
but I was, when you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, what if on my first day they would have said, there's a cement mixer, mix it. And don't make it too thick and don't make it too
Oh,
thin. And
gosh.
here's the right...
Oh boy.
No. Instead, I vividly remember my job was literally slinging the blocks over there
Yeah.
for the person who would set them on the joint, right?
Yep.
Perfect for the bricklayer so they didn't have to lift, just tip.
Yep.
The point was I was doing A. I wasn't doing Z.
Yes.
And it took a couple months before then I was shown how to mix the cement properly. So had they thrown me into the more difficult task,
Yep.
I would have been a failure and all the bricklayers would have hated me. So that's sort of, I'm thinking, boy, our industry maybe could use a little more of that where,
Well, learn how to crawl before you start walking.
yeah.
Right?
Okay, so this is really, really good stuff, and you know we've had you for a while, so I won't keep you much longer. But a lot of firms now have started to specialize recruiters in certain technologies, which I kind of like the thought in the sense that you know if you can embrace one thing, you can pick it up quicker.
Yep.
But nonetheless, I don't care whatever you choose. Pick any skill set. There are a ton of entry level and a ton of senior level skill sets.
Right.
If you were just recruiting help desk people right out of the gate, you'd be able to figure that out pretty quickly. But being able to understand ITIL and ITSM and how major organizations handle tickets inside of a company, who works on what the escalation procedures are, that's help desk.
Yep.
But that's a whole nother level of help desk.
Yep.
But if you start somebody working with whatever the heck they make, doesn't matter, and they're cutting their teeth on that lower level, even security, let's take security.
Right.
Maybe you are going to immediately start working with just user administrators that are setting up IDs.
Yes.
And then eventually you're going to work your way to the architect, eventually.
Yeah.
That's probably more of a better strategy for A, you, the consultant, not to handle bullshit calls.
Right.
And B, for that person to be able to get some mojo and moxie behind them so that eventually they can go from application support guy
To architects.
to architect
Yes,
guy.
absolutely. Don't go to architects and go down.
Yeah.
If you start doing architects, stay with architects. If you're here, stay here until you build, as you said, the experience to go up.
Yeah.
But don't do it the other way around.
Gosh, we solved a lot of world problems today. I'm really
Yeah,
proud
we
of
did.
us.
Oh yeah, okay,
I'm
great.
really
I
proud
love
of us.
that.
Hey, thank you very much. I
are very
appreciate you
welcome.
having you in here.
Thanks so much.
That'll do it. That'll do it for episode number 8, our interview with Imad. We're going to come back next week with another episode. We got a few more guests here over the next few weeks. Something tells me we're going to have to get Imad in here for another one in 2020. But check us out next week for another edition of Hire and Fire. Thank you. See ya. You just got done listening to Hire and Fire, a production by Pyra Consulting. Please check us out online on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or our website at pyraconsulting.com. That's PIRA consulting.com.